some vehicles around here that are very loud. And it seems like they love 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning. But anyway, just need something to tell the people, you know, ordinance is something to help prevent loud traffic. You know, and I'm reading the paper sometimes about squatters. Okay, I don't know anything about squatters in Palm Coast, so I'm not saying there are squatters here, but shouldn't the city look at a way that when a person rents a home or moves into a home, that there's some way of checking to verify that they really legally should be there? I don't know. It just seems like squatters get in and sheriff departments got their hands tied and it all ends up in court. So as a part of a plan, maybe come up with some way of verifying when somebody moves in, they have a legal right to be there. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Anyone else at this time?
Hi, Kathy Ostrino, and I just want to say thank you for doing this. Some of you know that I'm super excited about this project, and I appreciate all of you coming together and opening it up for all of us to be part of the conversation. And if I could just speak to the public, this is being taped, right? The ones watching. This is our opportunity. We've been invited to the table. You don't get your steak if you don't come to the table. So the more participation, the better off we all are. Thank you again.
Thank you. Next speaker. Go ahead, yes, sir.
Alexander Mahler, I'm residing in the W section. Mr. Mayor, members of the council, professional team, I would like to submit 3 questions for the consideration of the council and the opinion of the professional team. First question. There is currently wide debate on the sustainability of use-based comprehensive planning. Some cities, for instance Houston, Texas, operate without a comprehensive plan. My question, do we need a comprehensive plan? And if we do, what kind of comprehensive plan? Palm Coast will soon reach the 250,000 population threshold, which will bring Palm Coast to a different level of urbanization. Placemaking planning and integrated urban design can be considered as a highly suitable and sustainable alternative approaches to address the projected urban growth of Palm Coast. My second question, use-based zoning, a key control component of the use-based comprehensive planning, is widely debated and often considered an obstacle in urban design and development. Is the planning team considering alternative tools such as form-based codes and active urban design guidelines? These codes are place-oriented, invite active public participation, and provide a considerable development flexibility. Third question. Given the probability of limited public participation, the influential involvement of real estate industry factors, and the impact of local, state, and federal political trends, how does the city plan to manage public input? Practical experience indicates that a successful public involvement is conditioned by an efficient operational strategy and in-depth documentation of natural and built attributes and resources, and an open-minded understanding of the local, regional context. Thank you. I'd like to submit a question to the team.
Perfect. Thank you very much for your comments. Next speaker, please.
Good Good afternoon. Greg Glosset, President and CEO of the Palm Coast Flagler Regional Chamber. I'm really excited to be here today because we're planning the future of our city. And at the same time, as we sit here in this room, on the other side of Belterre, straight down US State Road 100, we have the county engaging in a similar process. And so I look at this as an opportunity to solve current problems that face our city and our community, and I hope you do too. We do have quite a bit of growth coming our way. The Chamber does analyze growth data, and the University of Florida Bureau of Economic and Business Research says that we could experience 80,000 net new residents between 2020 and 2040. That's the high end. And that's something that we've got to plan for. That's something that we can deal with, and we can understand what the future of that development looks like through this process. Also, some of the things that we look at the Chamber is, you heard about the traffic concerns. Consider that half of our 53,000 workforce leaves this community and travels to Daytona, travels to St. Augustine, and then the other half of our workforce drives in to fill presumably some of these tourism jobs. And I can talk more about that if you want, but the bottom line is, because of our lack of economic diversification and the types of jobs we have in this community, we are experiencing more traffic because more people are driving into jobs, more people are leaving out of this community to go to jobs that pay them what they think they should be paid. And so I'm hopeful that this process also can address some of these economic trends and concerns that the Chamber's paying attention to. And really the whole point of this process that we're getting ready to engage in is that we want to identify where are the future residents going to live, what are those buildings going to look like, and we also have an opportunity in that instance to increase the diversity of the housing types that we have in this community. We do not have, I know multifamily is kind of a bad word and apartments might be a bad word, but it's not a healthy balance that we have in this community. And the other thing that's not a healthy balance, in addition to the residential side, is the commercial side and the amount of money that comes in from commercial versus residential. So that's something that we're going to have to take a look at. And hopefully through this process, identify lands where it's going to be appropriate to have future commercial building and development occur. And right now, if you were to talk to anybody that's plugged into the process, they're going to tell you that when these site selectors come to town, we don't have properties to show them that are correctly zoned for them to consider bringing jobs to this community, to diversify our tax base on commercial versus residential. So I'm hopeful that that's something that can be addressed through this process. And I do want to agree with, it may seem weird to hear the Chamber say this, but we do need to preserve and expand parks and open space. We can do that. That's intrinsically linked to who we are as Floridians and Flagler County residents. So I'm excited about that. And I see I have 6 seconds left, so I'll save the rest, but wish you all the best in this process, and thank you for going through it.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else in the public interested in making a public comment at this time? We'll have another chance at the conclusion of the meeting. So with that, I'll close public comment, and I think we'll go right into our presentation. Mr. Tyner.
City Council members, thank you for your priority this year of opening up the comp plan. Mayor, just like you stated, it's very important. I've been here for 20 years, and I can tell you of your direction and City Council's direction of opening this up for the public. We haven't done anything like that, and we're going to do it this year. We have a great team of staff members, our planning board that's here today to help us with this process as well. We are so excited about this process and getting the new vision for the city of Palm Coast. And as part of that, our consultants that are helping and teaming up with the city, I would say is probably the most qualified in the state of Florida, if not the United States, to help us in this endeavor. They're highly qualified. It takes a very, very specific skill to go out to a whole community and to update the comp plan and the vision and working with staff to make this happen, and working with City Council on policy direction. So without further ado, I do want to introduce Kathy, and she is going to introduce her team and give a presentation for opening.
Good afternoon. Thank you for inviting us back to Palm Coast. We are honored to be the team selected to work with you on this important comprehensive plan update through the visioning process. And when you look at our core team, we have over 150 years of experience working with vision plans across the state of Florida and across the country. So I am Kathy Eba. I've been a planner for almost 30 years, mostly in the public sector. Only recently did I become a consultant. So usually I am one who is representing the communities, and that's really what's true and dear to my heart. So working on a project like this is the kind of work that I don't consider work. It's my passion. It's what I do. It's who I am. And so I'm very excited to be here working with you in the city of Palm Coast. The two team members that are not here I will introduce, and then I'm going to turn it and let the other two team members introduce themselves. Not here is Jason, who is with Access Infrastructure. He is going to lead our data analysis components of the team, and also John, who is the GIS director for JB Pro, which is the firm that I work for, and he is going to lead our GIS data assessments. As well as Dustin, who, if you're at tomorrow night's community meeting, he is our director, JB Pro's director of landscape architecture, and will be assisting with the design components of the team. So once again, we're very excited to be here. This is the kind of projects that we look to do, being engaged with a community, helping a community decide its own future, understanding what is very important parts of it, what the character of the community is, and how do we accept that we're going to change. Change is inevitable, but how do we change in a way that doesn't detract for or change the fundamental community of who we are and the character of who Palm Coast is? That's the question that's going to be on the table as we go through this effort over the next 18 or 14 or so months. At that, I'm going to introduce Alara Mill. I'm used to just calling her Alara, and so to have to put a last name to it.
Good afternoon. My name is Alara Mills-Gutcher, and I am a sub-consultant to Kathy's organization, JB Pro. I have been in the profession for almost as long as Kathy has. I'm in Northwest Florida. I am based out of Panama City. I'm a sole proprietor. I'm a woman-owned business. It's certified by the state of Florida. I do have one employee, and she's also a planner. She helps me out. She's an FSU grad, in case anyone here is Gold Knolls. I am what most people refer to as a policy planner, so this is my ballywick. I love writing policy. I've done it over my career for both the private sector and the public sector. I started in the public sector and have intermixed, and now I'm on my own as my own businesswoman and working on comprehensive plans, mostly north of the I-4 corridor within the state of Florida. I also do work as an expert witness, so when I write policy, I'm thinking about the legal implications of what you're doing, so that you'll have some insurance that what you're writing will be a great asset to not only you, but to the developer or whoever else is looking at that, reading that, and deciding whether or not it's a go or no-go for their development. So I am so excited to be here and be part of this team, and I'm looking forward to working with all of you on this project. And then Sylvia will come up and talk about her background.
Good afternoon. How's everybody doing? I know it's after lunch. I hope you're all going to stay awake. We'll do our best. I'm Sylvia Vargas, and I am a principal planner with a firm by the name of Calvin Giordano & Associates, which is a family-owned company, or has been until recently. We're now part of a national firm that has given us a stretch over the whole country. But Calvin Giordano has been in business for 85 years and is probably the premier municipal services consultant in Florida. I have been with the firm myself for 6 years, but before that, I was a planner with a planning and design firm that worked nationally. And so I have had the opportunity to work in a lot of different communities, many different scales, from tiny rural hamlets to large cities, including the city of Houston, for which about 8 years ago I was one of the leaders helping prepare the city's first general plan, which, by the way, was an endeavor that they undertook because they felt they needed that roadmap. Unlike the state of Florida, which requires communities to have a comprehensive plan. In Texas, you're statutorily less required than Florida to do that. But here in Florida, every community has to have a comprehensive plan. The question that we're going to tackle today is why do we need it, and why are we updating this plan now? Because the city has a comprehensive plan. It's called the 2035 Comprehensive Plan, a little bit less catchy than City on the Rise. But that's the whole point. We're looking at this process from a very different perspective. I'm going to start the presentation in just a moment, but since my colleagues talked a little bit about their other qualifications, I'm just going to tell you that I have been practicing as a planner for a little bit over 30 years. I guess I'm the veteran of the group. And I started in the public sector. In fact, I can tell you that I worked many, many moons ago in Monroe County with one of your esteemed planners, Jose Papa, who I was very pleased and surprised to see here when I came for the interview after not seeing him for many years. And moved into the private sector as a way of being able to serve many communities and learn best practices from my work with communities. And so by doing that, I found that my passion is community engagement. This is my wheelhouse. This is what I love to do. I'm very passionate about it. You cannot always get everyone to the table, but you have to try to get everyone to the table. And this is the best that we can do. And I know that we here with your staff and with yourselves and with our team, we have the best chance, because in the last couple of months where we have been working really hard with your staff, I am convinced that they have every opportunity, every chance of success. I've seen what they've done in such a short time, and I am super impressed, and I'm really excited to be working on this process. And so with that, I'm going to move into our agenda, if it is okay with everybody. So we're going to tag team a little bit on this presentation, but we're going to talk a little bit, like I said, about what we're doing and why are we doing it. Then we're going to talk about who is involved in our process and the different roles and responsibilities. It's really important to understand that everyone here has a job. It's not just us, it's not just the staff, but every single one of you who stood up and spoke, and you all have your job too. And we're going to tell you what that is. Then we're going to talk about the different ways in which we anticipate allowing the community their different ways of participating. We're going to offer a multiplicity of opportunities and a multiplicity of ways of participating. We're then going to talk about this event. Over the next 2 days, we have a lot of, well, now I guess we're in the afternoon of the first day, but we have a lot of different activities, and this is going to set the tone for what we're going to be doing over the next 14 months or so. We're going to talk about the schedule over those 14 months, and then if you will allow us, we will conduct a little exercise that we want to do with you in order to set the tone for the process of participating actively, and also to get your thoughts on some of the things that we're going to be doing. All right, so let's talk about what a comprehensive plan is. It is, of course, a document that is required by statute. Every community, as I said, has to have one. But it is a really important document. Why do we need one? Because it is a policy document that allows us to manage change, growth and change. Growth and change. This is a constant in communities. Communities grow if they're doing well, and they change. They can also change when they're not growing, but then you have to figure out whether that really is what you want. I hear a lot of people in communities where I go say, oh, we don't want change, or we don't want to grow. But when communities don't grow or change, they tend to stagnate. And so we need to figure out what the right balance is for this community to continue to grow, while at the same time, as Kathy said, keeping the core values and the core ideas and the core self of who we are. it is also more than even a product, even though we will produce a document at the end, it is a process. And that's the part I am excited about, because it is the process by which we engage the community in this conversation. And it has to be a conversation. It is not us coming to present to you. It is not the council presenting to you or making decisions for you. It is all of us working together and having a conversation about our collective future. The outcome of this effort is not that everyone has to agree about everything, but it is about finding the shared ideas, the common ground, so that we, out of that, can form our vision for the future. And that is going to serve as our destination. The plan is going to be our roadmap to get there. And if we do it right, we're going to get a hopefully not too long, but very strategic to-do list for us to work on over the next 10 to 20 years. So I mentioned that the city does have a comprehensive plan. It has been, I think it was adopted in the 80s. 2020. Well, no, actually, I'm sorry, not in the 80s. But, you know, after you all incorporated, you had to prepare a comprehensive plan. And of course, in the 80s is when the state set the Growth Management Act, decided that you all have to have comprehensive plans as municipalities. So when the city incorporated, it adopted a comprehensive plan, and over the years it has updated it. It has updated it wholesale when it is required by a process that is called evaluation and appraisal review, and it's also been updated in piecemeal form when different amendments have come through. And today, we're not in one of those cycles where we have to do this, but the council has set as one of its strategic priorities the preparation of this document, as I mentioned, to create that roadmap towards the common destination. And that's what we're going to try to do in this process. So there are many kinds of plans. There are master plans, there are different kinds of general plans, there are sector plans. Why is this plan comprehensive? The reason is, and I'm going to say because a lot of people tend to think of the comprehensive plan as, oh, it just deals with land use. It just deals with development. But development has many different facets. And land use is connected to every other aspect of the function of a community. And so this comprehensive plan has different chapters that deal with different topics as they connect with land use, and growth, and development. And the topics are not exactly as you see them on the screen, but generally speaking, in this process, we will touch on community character and design. We will talk about land use and development patterns, but we also need to talk more specifically about housing and neighborhoods and transportation and infrastructure as it interfaces with the land use and the development. We're going to talk about jobs, economic development. We're going to talk about public facilities and services that are needed to serve the growth. We're going to talk about history. We're going to talk about culture. We're going to talk about education. We're going to talk about environment and your natural resources, which I think we are already understanding, even the short time that we have been here, how important they are to the soul of this community. And I have been super, super impressed, and I'm very excited to come here with my husband one weekend and get on those trails and get on those parks. And so I think that's going to be really important to this conversation. And at the end, we also are going to talk about governance, because governance is how the comprehensive plan gets implemented. Right, I've talked a little bit about this already. I said that the comprehensive plan is the roadmap, and as such, it is used by the community, it's used particularly by the council to underpin decisions about development and about growth and about public investment and private investment, right? So it serves as that policy framework that helps you make decisions with respect to these different things. But then also in the day-to-day, it serves as the basis for the zoning, the subdivision regulations that your staff uses to interact with the public, with developers, with property owners. It serves as the basis for design standards and historic preservation guidelines, and perhaps most importantly, with the capital improvement plan and the budget, of course. So, as I mentioned, the reason why we are updating this comprehensive plan now is because you all have made it a priority. And I really, really commend you on that. The city might be at a very important juncture. And you talked about growth, the gentleman from the chamber. And we're going to be looking at that, of course. It's really important to understand how the city has been growing, how it might grow in the future, and to set the policy framework that is needed to balance the things that we want so that we can get to the future that we deserve. So as part of this process, we will be looking at what has happened. A lot has changed since the 2035 Comprehensive Plan was adopted. That was in 2004. And even though the plan has been updated in many ways, it doesn't necessarily reflect what has happened in the recent past. And we need to understand what those recent changes have been and what the trends are that will lead us into the future. And so that's what we're going to do. Our partner Jason and our team is going to be taking responsibility for that. And we're going to help through our process set the community priorities so that we can then, with Alara's help, create that policy framework. All right, I'm going to talk about, this is a very complicated diagram, and I don't expect you to read it right now, but it is our way to try to encompass how the entirety of the stakeholders that will be involved in this process are going to be interacting with each other, how we are organized internally, and how we will go about undertaking the process. So there are basically two parallel tracks that happen in this process. One is what I would call the vision-based process, which is the one in which we interact with the community. We listen, we collect your input, we try to make sense of what we hear and to extract threads and common ideas and use that as a basis for the policy framework. But there's a very important parallel track to that, which is the technical analysis part, because what we do has to be based on facts, and it's the basis, these two things together are the basis for the policies. So we're sort of at the center of the process, sort of straddling the two sides of it. In that first track of the vision and the community engagement, we have all of the community members, which I'd like to put them at the top. Most of these organizational charts have the council at the top. I'm sorry. But, the public, the people, are the ones who really, in our minds, are driving this process. And they will tell us what they want, they will tell us what they think, and we all will listen, and we'll take our direction from that. And we'll have, the planning board, I'm going to call you because it's a lot of alphabet soup for my tongue. But then we also will have some representative groups. We cannot be in the public, with the public all the time, and not everyone in the public is going to come. So one of the things that we are doing is trying to create these two groups that are going to be representative of as many of the constituencies as possible to help us. One is called the Imagine 2050 team, which we call our ambassadors. And many of them are coming from the Citizen Academy classes, graduates of those classes that are volunteering their time to help us go out into the community to augment our outreach and our messaging, and at the same time bringing to us what they hear, what they think their constituencies are saying and meaning. And we also will have another group, which we're calling key stakeholders, which are groups such as the Chamber of Commerce and other community organizations, which are going to be really pivotal helping us get into a much larger network of stakeholders as well, spread the message as well. So these are going to be two groups that we're going to use to expand our reach into the community, while at the same time providing us a sounding board for, are we getting it right? Are we, do we need to calibrate where we're going? Are we hearing correctly what people are telling us? So that's their role. And then on the bottom track, we have all of the technical expertise. Again, we have our team members, but we also have the staff who's going to be leading the technical analysis and the helping Alara with the drafting of the policy framework based on what we hear, so that we can bring it to you as well. All right, so I'm going to start with the jobs and the homework. First, City Council. Your responsibility is to be champions for the project, and I want to thank the mayor and the council members for making this a priority once again, and to encourage you to really be out there with us and helping us to spread the word to the community and encourage people. People listen to you, and so when they hear, as it's obvious even today, that this is happening and that this is important to you, they will make the time. But you also have to be very good listeners. You all have your own ideas about what the city should do or where the city should go. We need to be really good listeners when we go out to the community. You will provide project direction, but hopefully it will be based on what you hear and also as well on what you think. You will be assessing policy when we bring it to you. You will give us direction on that. We will ask you to confirm and endorse the vision statement when we have it ready for you, which will be about halfway through the process. And perhaps the most important part of your job is, once the plan is done, you are the caretakers of that plan and are charged with putting it into action. The planning board is a very important component of this process. You also are going to be ambassadors for us, but we need your technical expertise, your knowledge, to help us make sure that we're staying on track with the data, with our understanding of community conditions, community dynamics, understanding of what is happening on the ground. You will be our first sounding board for reviewing the work that we do before it goes to council, because you make recommendations to the council. And so your job as a sort of filter is going to be super important to us. City staff, we at this point are considering ourselves as an extension of your staff. They are taking the lead for managing the project and coordinating all of the different activities, the logistics, etc. They are very expertly taking on the vast majority of the on-the-ground public outreach and communications. We are working together on that, but they know the community better than we ever can. And so they're telling us where we can go, where we're going to get the most return on investment for our activities. They are coordinating our efforts, obviously, and they also will have the first review of all the products and will publish it and disseminate them to you and to the public. And so I'm not going to spend too much time on us because, again, I think in our interaction with the staff, I kind of talked about what we do. But again, we are going to help staff facilitate the public engagement process, but also facilitate the preparation of the community assessment. And we will assist, because our role is not to take over this process. This is your process, and we're just here to help you. And so we will help you create a vision statement. We will help you craft direction in terms of policy. We will help you create your final plan document and your implementation strategy. Now, I mentioned that we have a team that we're calling the Imagine 2050 team, which is composed of Citizen Academy graduates primarily, and other volunteers, and the key stakeholder group as well. And I talked a little bit about what their function is, so I'm not going to repeat myself, but it is fundamental. These are volunteers, and of course we're super, super, super grateful that anyone wants to do this. It's a lot of work, but hopefully once the volunteers commit to do this, they stick it out and they are working with us throughout the process. And then I also talked about the public in general, the community members. Your job is to show up. You have to participate, you have to give your opinions, but you also have to listen. You have to listen to others, because I talked about this as a conversation, and a conversation can only happen when people talk to each other and listen to each other, and we contribute to the conversation in a positive way. You will share your ideas, but you also will provide feedback on our ideas and others' ideas, and hopefully you also will serve as ambassadors, and you will go out today and tell others that we are starting this process, and you will encourage them to participate as well. And I think with that, I'm going to turn it over to Kathy. Thank you for your attention. Oh, that's something that... No, not for me.
How much did your contract cost? And secondly, was it in a bid process, or did you actually have to do a competitive venture
Yes, sir.
for getting this contract?
Yes, we did. Kathy is actually on the, I'm a sub-consultant on her team. She's the prime, so she can answer those questions, but I can tell you that it was a competitive process. It was a pretty fierce process as far as we're concerned. We worked very hard for it because we really wanted to come and work in this community. And as far as the overall contract, I'm going to let her speak to that.
But you're not talking about how much it costs.
Well, that's what I said, sir. I'm just a sub-consultant, so she's the prime. She's holding the contract.
Hi, sir. Yeah, so our contract is $150,000 to complete this effort. And I can tell you that that is actually not as much as some communities pay for this kind of effort. Visioning efforts are more expensive than standard policy documents because they are so intensive, because we will spend quite a bit of time with your community over the next 14 months. And because we are working with your team in a collaborative effort. I will tell you, you asked about whether or not this was competitive. As I said, I've spent most of my time in the public sector, and I wish we had developed the kind of process to hire that you all used in yours. I wish some of the governments that I'd worked for had done so. The questions that we were asked, the discussions that we had in the interview process were very thoughtful and very well thought out. And they really asked us to think about our experience and be able to show how we used our experience. It wasn't just we can borrow this plan that we've used for somebody else and bring it to Palm Coast. We had to really be able to show how we would use our experience in Palm Coast in a very unique and different way to address the challenges that are facing Palm Coast. So I really applaud your staff for how they led and did their proposal process, because when we were selected, I felt like we were selected because they knew we were the right team for this project based on our experience and our knowledge from other communities, bringing it forward to meet the unique challenges here. And I think Mr. Tyner would like to further discuss that.
I don't want to dwell on this, but I will tell you the process that we do is set by City Council. They approve the contract, and we have the right team of this. There are communities out there that pay over $1 million for this service, okay? And we've got the right blend, because to make this process successful, we have to have our staff involved as well as the consultant. If you take a consultant firm, you say, go out and go do it, you're gonna get a product out. Just like they're talking about this presentation, it's a team effort with our community to get really what that vision is. So we're very excited about this.
Yeah, and that's the reason. And that's the reason why other communities pay more, because they just hire people on the outside and say, here, we want you to do this for you. We aren't doing anything for Palm Coast. We are working with you in collaboration. We have, from the very, very beginning of this process, from the very beginning of this process, this has been a collaborative effort, and when we presented to council, we presented as a unified team. We look at that way, like Sylvia said, we're an extension of your staff. We aren't here to supplement, and we aren't here to overtake your staff. This effort will be done from day one till the end of it in a collaboration between us and your staff, between us and you, and most importantly, with the community and all of us. That's what we are here mostly to do, and actually you've given us the perfect segue into what a vision-based comprehensive planning process is. Comprehensive plans get updated all the time. Sylvia discussed how your comprehensive plan has been updated over time since it was originally adopted in 2004, but a vision-based comprehensive plan, a vision plan, is a different kind of comp plan. This is not a policy document only. This is not a data analysis only. This is, first and foremost, a vision for your community. This is a discussion with your community. This is a conversation with your community. This is about listening. This is about us not being here to tell you what the best thing is for Palm Coast. It's for Palm Coast to tell us what you think about Palm Coast, what your challenges are, what your concerns are, what your needs are, and for us to be able to reflect back in a mirror what those things are and how you can address them. We are here not to lead your effort, but we are here to provide that sounding board. We are here to provide that mirror so that we're reflecting the ideas that we're hearing, that we're helping you identify your keys. We're helping you prioritize your issues. We're helping you confirm the direction you want to move this plan forward. We are doing this because this is the way comp plans get implemented. We all, unfortunately, have written and participated in planning efforts that sit on a shelf and become a nice, dusty document. When you do a vision-based planning effort, it takes ownership of the community. It becomes a part of the community. The community knows it and wants it to happen. I've had community members who, for projects that I worked on 20 years ago, who have said to me, I know exactly where that plan sits on the shelf, and when the council or the planning commission or others go astray from it, I go, you need to look back at that plan. I know that plan, that's our plan, we wrote that vision. So that's why you do a vision-based comp plan, because you take ownership of it, because it becomes a part of you. Because it's a process for everyone. Because it's a process that we all can participate in. And it's not something that's done in boardrooms. Yes, we're starting it here today, but we will continue to do this in the public. We will do these informal events. We will do them in informal events. We'll do them inside. We'll do them outside. We're going to do them where people are. And so that everyone can feel like they participate in this process and have an ownership in the process. We're going to use high-tech tools. We're going to do low-tech tools. We're going to provide opportunities for people who English is not their first language. We're going to provide opportunities for students. We're going to provide opportunities for seniors. We're going to opportunities for business people and working. We're going to provide opportunities for anyone who thinks that they are a member of the community of Palm Coast. Some of the in-person activities we're going to do is, as Sylvia talked about, we're going to use focus groups. That's your stakeholder group, the Imagine 2050 group. We're going to hold open houses for the community at large and also for smaller groups. We're going to do workshops for the community at large and also for smaller groups. We're going to do road shows. And road shows are those efforts where we're going to go out to the community and we're going to do presentations in the community where people are asking us to. We're going to go to schools and we're going to go to the Kiwanis. We're going to go to the Rotary and we're going to go to the Chamber. We're going to go to churches. Wherever somebody wants us to come and talk, we're gonna be there. And by we, I mean all of this. This isn't the consultant team, once again. This isn't our project here for you. This is about everybody working together. Tomorrow morning, as you're gonna learn when we talk about the kickoff events, we're gonna be meeting with your team of the members who you've already talked to, but also other members of the city staff who are gonna volunteer to participate and go out and provide these presentations and do the road shows and be at a pop-up event and do these kind of informal activities so that we can engage as many people in different places as we possibly can through this effort. We're also going to do some other ways of letting people know. So even if they don't want to actively participate, they can learn about it through media. They can learn about it through publication. Brittany and her team, you guys are rock stars. We were talking about that on our tour earlier. Your public information team is just second to none. I've worked with a lot of them, and they have been out there. They have been working really hard. They've been trying to think about how do we engage people, and you're going to learn a little bit more about that from Brittany in just a second. And we're going to provide online engagement so that people can, whether or not if they don't want to participate in person, but they've heard about it from somewhere and they want to participate, they can work on it through online tools. We're going to do community groups. The idea is that while many ideas are going to come to the table, we're going to create one vision. And that's because we're going to have listened to each other. We're going to have better understood each other. You know, you hear a lot in the media about people being divided and that our country is in a place that they don't know and don't recognize. I don't know whether or not that's true, but I know that when we do community engagement efforts, we do them because we want people to not feel divided. We want people not to feel isolated. We want people not to feel that they aren't welcome to the table. We want people not to feel that they are the other. We want people to feel like they are part of something, that we're all a part of something. We're all a part of Palm Coast. And so in the end, we're gonna have lots of ideas that are come to the table, and we're gonna agree to compromise, and we're gonna agree to understand each other, and we're gonna agree to prioritize what's most important for Palm Coast so that we can create a shared set of values, a shared vision for our future moving forward that will then be implemented, not today, not tomorrow. This is a long-term process. This is, when I say 14 months is your comprehensive plan, but this effort is gonna take 20, 30, 40 years to implement. This is a long-term goal. We're going to establish those things that we can do right away, those low-lying fruit, and then we're going to figure out what ones we can do a little bit longer and which ones are going to take us even longer still. And again, it's going to happen because people are going to take ownership of this plan, and they're going to hold us accountable to achieving the plan. So the 14-month planning process, is more like 13 months now, with 14 months included the month we've already spent. But the first component of that is mobilizing for success. The second component is the data assessment, which is actually most of the project. You can't kind of think of these as separate phases because they overlap each other. The third component is your update of your comprehensive plan, and the fourth is your adoption. But throughout this effort, there is engagement, and it's engagement of different types. In the beginning, the engagement is about initiating the buy-in, initiating ideas, understanding what the comp plan is, and helping people understand why they need to be involved in this process. The second component then starts getting to the core of the ideas. What are people's ideas? What are people talking about? What do we need to think about as we're writing the comprehensive plan? And then once we've established that vision, the next phase is for us to set our choices, our priorities. We can't do it all. We know we can't do it all. And even if we could do it all, there's some things we shouldn't do. So that prioritization process is really going to help us determine what initiatives we want to become a part of our planning efforts long term. And then finally, we will adopt the plan. And then after that's done, there will be a whole bunch of to-do lists, including updating your land development code and looking at your capital improvement element and your capital improvement plan to make sure that your capital improvement plan and your land development regulations and any other planning efforts that you have all support the vision that was established through your comprehensive plan. Oh, there she is. I'm like, where's Brittany? So here we are. We're on day one. We're not on day one. We've actually been working on this for a few months now, but in all sense, the public, we are on day one. And as I mentioned, Brittany and her team has been there for the last few months working with us to really get this kick started. And so she would like to talk a little bit about what we already have done and give you some insight into how people are going to be able to participate through other methods other than in-person events. Yes.
You mentioned that you produce a document.
Excuse me, sir. This is being taped on the record, so you're gonna have to hold your question until the end for public comment, so we can be sure that people at home can hear it. So you'll have another chance at the end.
Okay, good, yeah.
And today,
Good, yes. As soon as we get finished the presentation, I'll call on. Thank you. Please go ahead.
Okay, so the fun part, engagement. So how are we going to reach the community that we've been talking about? Tomorrow is our big kickoff event at the community center from 4 to 7. So we're asking everybody who can to come out. They'll kind of get a mini version of this presentation to get an understanding of what we're doing, and then they'll actually be able to start setting that vision for what we want to see for the future. So we're very much looking forward to tomorrow night. And then we've been already putting out some information about the comp plan, getting people excited, trying to get them to understand a little bit about what a comprehensive plan is. So we've done a lot of social media campaigns. We've handed out flyers at our previous city events and even some non-city events that we were able to have space at. We have a bunch of palm cards, like little business cards that have project website QR codes that they can go to. We've done press releases that have been picked up by the media. We've got posters around town, and it's been included in our weekly newsletter. We also had, we created a website on our homepage at palmcoast.gov, and again, all of the social media stuff we've had. This was actually completed, these statistics, a couple weeks ago, so we've had much more interaction than is shown here. I think our website already has over 600 hits, and the actual interactive website was just launched yesterday, so that'll be an opportunity for people who are not able to come out to our in-person events. They have the same opportunities as everyone else to give us their feedback on this interactive website. So this is probably the best time for me to go ahead and show you a little demo of that website, and then also to remind people that all of our city meetings are on our YouTube channel for those who can't be here in person. So I'm just gonna minimize this real quick. Take you to a site that you're already familiar with. So this is our city website. If you scroll all the way to the bottom, there's a tile for Imagine 2050, which is our comprehensive plan update. So that'll take you to a landing page that just has some basic information. Of course, our event tomorrow is highlighted and this meeting today. We have a fun little video that talks a little bit about the comprehensive plan, and it also gets residents' feedback on how they feel about Palm Coast and what they want to see in the future. So we've kind of done a little bit of preview with some people on how they like the city and what they want to see. There's some background information, frequently asked questions, and some resources there. But if you click on the button at the top that says Visit the Project page, that'll take you over to our interactive social site. All right. I'm not sure why it scrolled down on me, but so this is our Imagine 2050 social pinpoint. So it also, again, calls out the event for tomorrow. It has a little synopsis of what Imagine 2050 is. And then it has an opportunity for people who want to interact with us online to go ahead and do one of the activities that we're going to highlight tomorrow at our public kickoff meeting. So you can come on here and you can post your ideas of what you want to see in the future. There's a little prompt that asks you what brought you to Palm Coast, what keeps you here, and what's your favorite thing about Palm Coast. We did have a couple people already come in and put some thoughts on here. So they'll pop up here when people enter them. You can like them, you could dislike them, but they'll all pop up on there so that you're able to see how other people feel. Then there's this interactive mapping tool where you're able to go ahead and, I'll I'll just fast forward to the bottom here. You have all of these types of markers that you can put on the site. So if you have places in Palm Coast where you think would be great to have a walkable community, such as Town Center, you can add a little marker and place it on the map, write some notes, and then that is an interactive like forum type of social engagement where you can see what other people like. They'll have these markers all over the page, and then you can actually comment on there, hey, I think that's a great idea. I'd love to see that too. Or you can disagree as well. But we have 5 markers to start with: walkable community, multifamily homes, commercial and employment districts, I guess, parks and open space, and then infrastructure. So you can just add, you can find a location, add a marker, select your category, and it's very, very simple, very quick interactions, but it also gets the engagement going. Again, these are the same kind of informational FAQs that were on our previous homepage. And then on the right-hand side is where you'll see the schedule of all of the events that we're gonna have, at least that we've mapped out to this point throughout this process. So we've already launched the project, as Kathy and Sylvia talked about. We've been doing this for a couple months now behind the scenes. Our website launched, and then today is your City Council and Planning Board workshop. So after today, there will be a little check mark on this event. Tomorrow is our community engagement kickoff meeting, and it's clickable. So if you click on the event page, it'll take you to the website event page that has more information. But then after tomorrow, we still have tons of opportunities for people to get involved. We'll be at all of our city events with opportunities for engagement, and we'll be able to capture all of that, share it with our consultants, and then all of that will go into the next step of the process. So you can scroll for a while. There's a lot of opportunities to get involved, some in settings such as this, and then a lot are at our city events that it's kind of a built-in audience that we'll be able to interact with and capture. And then the final thing is our Facebook feed is on there, and then you can return to the city website from there as well. Any questions on this portion? Awesome.
So we're going to talk just quickly about kind of the next 2 days and what we're going to be doing and what events that we're going to be working through. We are going to be doing tomorrow, as I mentioned, a kickoff with your city staff, and this is where your city staff becomes an extension of us, as we are an extension of you. In order for us to be able to really ensure that the community takes ownership of this, rather than, like I said, us being hired to do all the work, your staff is taking up a good responsibility in making sure that this continues and is done. And in order for them to do that, they need to learn a little bit about our experience. So we're going to be training tomorrow on how to run these kind of events so that the staff can be just as good at doing these events as we would be. We will, this evening, we're going to have a meeting with the 2050 team, Imagine 2050 team, and the stakeholders. We expect that they will also hopefully become partners with us and join us at some of the events and activities. So that sometimes, depending on what activity it is, you would see consultants, you would see staff, you would see Imagine 2050 team, you'll see us all, and you'll see us all as just an integral part of the entire project. We've actually already started half of this part of the tour. While you were doing your workshop this morning, your team was giving us a tour so we could learn about your city through your eyes. We've all participated and driven around the city on our own, but it's a lot different when we actually hear from your own staff about what it is. So we visited some of your community this morning. And then tomorrow evening, we'll have our first open house. We'll have the kickoff open house where we will start that actual activity of building the momentum and learning about the community from the communities. And there's actually an event that we added to this, and that is we'll be meeting with your TRX committee tomorrow afternoon to start the data analysis and start learning about what data pieces that we want to do. Unlike, again, because this is a vision plan, we want to start with the vision and we want the data to support the vision. So we're going to be talking about how we can do kind of targeted or more strategic type data assessments so that we really understand the parts of the community that we need to understand, and not just kind of put a big blanket over everything and try and learn everything. So again, this is your project schedule. Phase 1 is where we are right now. And we are starting the phase 2 and phase 1 and phase 3 kind of all overlap each other. We'll be moving into the public participation outreach after this kickoff event, and then we'll get into your comprehensive plan update and adoption. And just like Brittany showed you earlier, we have a little timeline that we're going to be showing, and every time we do this presentation, we'll be updating the arrows and bringing in more color. This one is kind of a summary. This is going to change. This is a dynamic process. This is an iterative process. So whereas we're learning what we need to do, we might change a few things so that we better serve and better address and better reach out. We heard very loudly and clearly when we brought this to council for the review of the contract that we needed to reach all, and if that word was very clear to us, all community members. So that in order to do that, as we're looking at the progress and we're looking at the schedule, things may get added or changed as we move forward so that we can always be adapting and we can always be learning. We don't want to presume that today, on August 10th, as the kickoff starts, that we know exactly what needs to happen between now and next October when we start and finish this project. So we know that things are going to change. We know that we're going to need to do some updates, and that's why this process will make changes through the effort. But again, there you take it all the way through September of next year. And on that, I'm going to re-invite Sylvia back to the board, and she and I will have a little discussion with you all. Unless, Mr. Mayor, would you like to have whatever public comment we have about the presentation, or do you want to go right into the discussion?
So why don't we do it this way? Let's do public comment quick, and then we'll finish off because our agenda shows city council member comments, and we'll handle your give and take with that. Does that work? So just stay right
Perfect.
where you are. Sir, would you like to make your comment now?
Should I come?
Yeah, please. Thank you, ladies.
My understanding is at the end, you will oh.
Can you say your name for the record?
Oh, yes, Alexander Mahler, W section. You will submit a document with a vision. Yes.
If you use the microphone.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, okay. Well, I'll be close. And now, this document will become a basis for future development. How do you include in it the possibilities which you talked about of further change after you submit it? Change will occur, and we know it occurs very fast. Before you answer this question, the other question is, in what way will this comprehensive plan refer to the region, to the context? We have here a number of communities which probably they do the planning also, as I heard. So how do you integrate that, and what's the dynamic of the process? Because it can be a closed document that will be stagnant and not relevant.
So, ladies, let me help you. Those are excellent questions. What I'm going to ask you to do, because those questions are going to require significant answers, we're going to work through an exercise in just a minute, and I will ask if you could get together with them and talk about that, because those are not short answers. They're very well thought out, and I appreciate them. So we have them on the record now.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Any other members of the public want to make a closing public comment here? Yes, ma'am.
Silvia Puglisi. I just want to make sure that in this comprehensive plan, greater things and great amenities we have here in Palm Coast not are only preserved, like our public golf course, Palm Harbor, which we fought so hard and it was #1 amenity in the city, make it, also continue making it affordable to the residents of the city and any parties that come and join, and make it successful as it is now. And some other thing that is very important, and it's been much delayed through all the years I live here since 1991, is the extension, widening with all turn lanes of Old Kings Road north of the Palm Coast Parkway all the way to the Matanzas Parkway, and also start thinking about the south side widening of Old Kings Road. This is a very vital road that it is pretty much delayed that we need in the city of Palm Coast. And I want to know that this comprehensive plan will keep those things. Also, there are amenities right now that we had it better in the past, like the community pools for our elderly children with affordable membership that not only have to be seriously preserved, but they need to be added more hours and Sundays on these hot summers. For the future, we need to have, whether it's an aquatic center, but what we cannot afford that, we need to offer better services on our current Belter pool and in the other pool that was Frida Samba, whatever, before. We need to think about the community needs, the children, also the elderly, and all these activities that are physical activities that are good for right now for their health and for the future. So please preserve those in this plan.
Appreciate your comment, thank you. Anyone else at this time want to make a public comment? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. Nicole Graves, East Flagler Mosquito Control District. I'm the outreach specialist. We are the government agency that's often forgotten until you're swatting. Yeah, you like that. And because we're a special taxing district, we are everything pretty much east of the railroad track, so that does encompass the entire community of Palm Coast. But we would like to offer our expertise and guidance, especially with land use development, housing, recreation facilities. So we are at your disposal as well. But as for your little notes here, plants and ponds. So bromeliads, cattails, and water fountains and ponds. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Anyone else from the public like to make a comment at this time? Seeing no one come forward, I will close public comment now, and we're going to go to City Council for final comments, which will be your exercise, if that works for you.
It does, thank you very much. And before we start, I just want to say that we are super happy to talk to anyone about the process, about the products, and come tomorrow night, please, and start participating in the conversation by adding your ideas onto the website. I cannot tell you how impressed I am with your communications team. I mean, they really are rock stars. But I will just say, keep it above board with the comments. Try to like things, try not to dislike things. Anyway, we have just 2 little questions for you, and the way that we're going to try to do this is to facilitate the discussion so that every single one of you have an opportunity to give us your thoughts. You can pass if you want, but I'm going to try to go in order around the table so that we can capture your input. So 2 very simple questions. The first one is individually. What are your expectations about the outcomes of this process? Not about the process, but about the outcomes. And the second one, which is sort of the flip side, what do you perceive to be, in your opinion, the biggest challenges that the city faces in trying to achieve these outcomes? Okay? We are. I'm not going through both of them, but I just want to read them to you, show them to you, so that you can start thinking about it. All right, so we're going to tackle the first one first, and I'm going to start on this side of the table, if that is okay with you? Okay. All right, so what would be your expectations? Now that we've gone through our presentation, you know more about the process, you know about what your role is.
Yeah, so in general, expectations, I guess, would be that, I think we talked in the beginning of this is the pivotal point for the city of Palm Coast, and really, so understanding what the city hopes to be when we grow up, if you will. So there's lots of changes that need to come, and getting the community's feedback on what direction the city is going to go is, I hope, a key outcome from the process, and helps us build a comprehensive plan to deliver that.
Great, thank you very much. All right, pass it on. Next.
So my expectations.
All right,
Is that the question I'm answering, or I am?
the
am I
first
answering
one, the
question two?
first question,
All right,
what are
so
your expectations?
My expectations are that we come up with a great plan for our future, and we're counting on you folks to help us deliver that in conjunction with our involvement.
No pressure, but
And-
we are apt to.
Yes, so there's no pressure on you, but we appreciate the presentation that you've put up today, and it's a good step forward.
Thank you.
I'm looking forward to all of the events that'll be coming down the road. But again, I think this whole community has got expectations that we will succeed,
Yes.
and we will move into the future and become a better city.
We need to begin defining what success looks like.
Right.
And that's part of the process.
Right, and do you want us to answer the second questions too?
Not yet. We're going
Okay.
to do the first question first. All right. So what are your expectations?
Good afternoon. Thank you for being here and for everything that you presented to us. My expectations and what I'm hoping we get out of this is achieving the proper balance that we're currently missing. So achieving the commercial, the industrial, really bringing industry and good paying jobs into our community that we currently don't have, making sure that we're balancing out the commercial with the residential, and preserving home rule and our ability to rule on a local level rather than being dictated to by the state, and ensuring that in our comp plan we have the proper balance, specifically with conjunction with the Live Local Act, to make sure that, you know, we on our local level can deem where certain projects, commercial versus residential versus affordable housing, all those things should be in the community based on what we know works best for us.
Right. So, of course, you know, I'm sure it's no surprise to anyone here that, you know, preemption is very much on our minds. But there are ways in which a lot of communities that I'm working in, and I not only do this as a project consultant, but I also serve on a day-to-day basis as an extension of planning staff, actually an extension of municipal governments. And we're thinking a lot about what these cities can do to put in place a framework that is more attractive to developers to follow rather than going the Live Local Act. So that's something that we may need to explore here as well. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. What are your expectations,
Yes, good
young lady?
afternoon. And is this on?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you for the presentation. With everything that's been heard, there is a lot to be considered, and your presentation was wonderful. With the comprehensive plan going into process, my expectation is, I agree very much with Councilwoman Pontieri about keeping the balance in perspective when we talk about the growth of the city. And my other major concern, and we've heard this several times in City Council, is about keeping in mind the needs of our seniors here in the city of Palm Coast, and also the children and adults with special needs. We have to take very much into consideration what we can do to provide the necessary means for them to live properly here in this community of Palm Coast, especially with the growth as we see it coming.
Great. I really like that, because our process is a process for everyone. And we have the parallel track that I talked about with the data and inventory assessment, right? And so we're going to be looking at our demographics. We're going to be looking at, you know, how things are changing in that sense to give us the fact-based foundation for making policy choices with regards to those kinds of things. Thank you. Mr. Mayor?
Well, you certainly have lit a fuse on a rocket to our future. You all have been through this before. You know, staff has done some homework on some other municipalities that have been through the process. Especially appreciate your comment that everybody has to keep a cool demeanor. There are going to be good times and bad times throughout this long process, but we all have to collaborate and learn to work together. So what I'd like to see is, at the end, a process and procedure that was as inclusive as possible. Next, I want to make sure that financial sustainability for the long term is an underpinning for all that we do.
Right.
And finally, I want a deliverable that is a living and working document that we will actually use. So that
Great.
would be my expectations.
Thank you. That's great.
City Manager?
Next, please.
Thank you again for being here. You've done a great job, and you certainly have your work cut out for you. I
That's what
think
we
Palm
like.
Coast is a pretty terrific place to live. I think it has been all along. I think my expectation is that we continue that, and that through this process, you're able to look forward into the future and maybe anticipate our problem areas so that as they come, and we know they will, that maybe we're prepared to face them without a big problem.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you. I used to work for school districts, and we used a lot of these interactive whiteboards, but it was a lot easier when you were planning on what classroom to put in than have to use them. We were so ready for anything today that we had our backup plan here. Okay, who's next? Anticipate, I would say, is perhaps, right? Maybe the gentleman from the chamber talked about fixing the problems of today, and I think that the plan will help us identify what some of those are to look for, as Kathy put it, the sort of low-hanging fruit or the urgency as well. But the plan is really about looking and anticipating the problems of the future. So that's kind of what we're going to try to do. Next.
My expectations of the outcome of this process is one that it is reflective of a diverse, equitable, and inclusive process that creates a healthy environment, a healthy ecosystem for the city of Palm Coast that's reflective of the needs of all of the citizens, where we can live, work, and play, but one that is definitely diverse, equitable, and inclusive.
Great. That's what I'm all about. I've been very fortunate to be able to volunteer on the leadership of my professional organization, which is the American Planning Association, and equity, diversity, and inclusion is at the core of what we do because of the kind of work that we do. We have to be very focused on making sure that everyone is welcome and included in these projects, in these processes. So thank you for that. Yes, sir. What are your expectations?
My expectations are that when this process is complete, that it'll become obvious to the community that it was a worthwhile endeavor and that it will be reflected in the actions of the council and in the stakeholders that, yes, this is a great plan and I'm on board.
Yes, we hope so too. I'm just going to say before I let you speak, I think we lost someone, the gentleman with the defective mic. One of our hopes is by involving such a wide range of groups in the process, like actively engaged, like the Imagine 2050 team and the key stakeholders, that we have ownership of the process beyond the elected officials, because elected officials change over time. That's inevitable. But as long as the citizens feel that this is their plan, they will hold whoever is on council accountable if they feel that is their plan.
Since my partner has walked out, I'm going to use his time. As a 71-year-old resident of Palm Coast and a 40-year resident of Northeast Florida, I'm pretty in tune with why I'm here, and
Yes.
most of the people that are in my demographic like Palm Coast the way it is and the way it used to be. So my point is, I hope that our demographic are as happy with the outcome of the process as the younger people will be.
Good point. I like that clarification. Thank you. All right. Yes, sir.
Well, let me start by saying that I probably lived here longer than everybody, so this past month I have lived in Palm Coast for 50 years.
Wow,
So
congratulations.
I have a lot at stake here in the county and in the city, and I think we're at a time where this process is probably the most beneficial, where people can get involved. And so my expectation is that every member of the community gets involved. This is a great time for them to have a voice, and they really need to step up and make this a good community project.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Okay, so I'm not sure how we're going to do this part, but something that I wanted to go back over the list and kind of see the common threads. And yeah, that's going to be tough. There's a lot of it. But, well, you know, I don't know if you guys can see any of it, but, you know, I heard some common threads. I heard, you know, the expectation that people will be actively involved and that they will take that as their responsibility, preparing us for the future, happiness with the outcome of the process, feeling that they have been part of what comes out of it. Tell me something else, Kathy? A process, inclusiveness, financial sustainability.
That it is a plan that will live on, that will take ownership of it, and then will that will anticipate not only the challenges of today, but the challenges that are coming in the future, that we will, we're not going to lock this balance.
Balance, yes.
And that we will listen to each other and we'll work together. And then I also heard the idea, especially in the first part of the discussion, where we brought up the idea of balanced growth, balanced economic development, balanced residential development.
And I think also a balanced perspective in terms of who benefits from the comprehensive plan in order to have everyone benefit from the comprehensive plan. So,
The first comment, but the point in the city, what will Palm Coast be when it grows up? I think that kind of actually summarized it. Well, it was the first statement met.
yes.
It did a good job of summarizing everything that was kind of important.
So what I had wanted to do, and may not be able to do because this is a long list, is to have you vote on your collective top 3 expectations. But I think that perhaps we move on to the next one because the list is too long for that. But you can think about what your top priorities are. So we're going to move on. No.
Please tell me I can just ruin that.
I think there's an undo button here. All right.
Have you ever read a long report or something and something
Oh my gosh.
happens and your computer crashes?
I actually had palpitations. All right, calm down. It's saved. All right, so now we move on to the next question, which is the flip side of what we just heard. So the other one is sort of what the opportunities are, and now we talk about the challenges, the barriers to achieving these results that you all talked about. So I'm going to start here this time. What are the biggest challenges that we face?
Satisfying 80,000 people. I think the
In summary.
In summary, yeah. But I think the biggest challenge is how do you balance growth with with traffic, and then all of the wants and needs of the
Yes.
citizens. So I think that is the biggest challenge.
Well, I will just say that it's probably going to be impossible for us to satisfy 80,000 people, but we'll do our best to get them to agree on even a few things
that they all feel are the most important to achieve in common with all the other 79,000. All right. Okay, next, sir.
Pretty much what this gentleman just said is kind of the consensus of where we end up and having the majority of the people happy with the outcome.
Okay, all right, thank you.
I think one of the biggest barriers is one, countering misinformation, because I think that happens a lot, that you have people that are talking about things that they really don't know anything about, but they speak very loudly and very aggressively, so people believe what they're saying. And I think that's why it's important that we overcome the barrier of reaching a diverse audience, cross-sectional, intergenerational audience to be at the table. It's very important to do that. And to be transparent also. So I know we talked about, in the previous question, there was a little mention about the Live Local Act. I think that has to be a part of the discussion with the community, so they really understand the impact of Live Local on the community and what our roles are as planning board members, especially. What does quasi-judicial mean? Because sometimes I think that, because the comp plan is the driving document for all of that, what's going to come before us.
Right.
So I think those are some barriers, really educating, countering misinformation, and having a very diverse representation of people here at the table.
Okay, very well. Thank you very much. What about you, sir?
Thank you. I think one of the big challenges in anything like this is getting enough people to participate. You've certainly set up many, many ways for people to participate, but typically you hear a lot from a small number of people. So trying to get 80,000 people to participate is going to be tough.
We're certainly going to give them the chance to do so.
They certainly have the chance and the opportunity. Whether they will or not, I don't know. But hearing from enough people and getting enough points of view, I think, is a challenge.
You are correct, and it is really difficult, but my experience working in many communities across the country is that those that succeed in getting people to the table is not because the consultant did A or B, or even the communications team did well, but because they're, word of mouth and others bringing people to the table as well and telling them how important it is to bring their voice. So once again, I'm just going to do that little push. Please, please, please be the ambassadors for this process. Thank you.
I would prioritize two challenges. One, we are a young city with old bones, aging, and we have a poorly skewed set of demographics in terms of both age, income, housing. You can go down the entire list. So those are two hurdles to overcome as we look forward.
Thank you. That's very insightful. Yes, ma'am.
I think that one of the biggest challenges that we're going to face is getting enough of the community involved in what it is that we want to achieve with this comprehensive plan. Because I find that to be true, because I've only been here going on my first year in city council, and I've been out there in the community talking to people, telling them to show up. That's the only way you're going to learn what's going on here in your community. And I'm still waiting for a lot of them to show up. So I think we have to find a way to become more inclusive rather than exclusive, and get people to understand that it's okay to come out and be a part of your community and be a part of the community that we want to make one of the best communities in Florida. So we have to work really hard at achieving that. Word of mouth is good, but sometimes it doesn't always work. So I think we're going to have to find another way to achieve this.
Well, certainly we want everyone to feel welcome in this process. And of course, through the plan, we want everyone to feel welcome in the community. And one of the reasons why in our public engagement process, we're instead of having meetings where we expect people to show up, we're going to try to go out into the community where people are. We may not reach everyone, but we're going to do this in order to be able to reach people that ordinarily would not even know about this process. So we're going to show up at the park and talk to families and talk to kids, show up at the library and show up at, in front of the grocery store. show up at your festivals where you're going to have so many more people, where we're going to have the opportunity, if they want, to talk to them and for them to talk to us. So I think that's one way in which we are going to open up the process to people that don't normally show up. But thank you, yes.
So the biggest challenge that I see in this process is that we simply just don't have a crystal ball. We don't know what 20 years looks like, 30 years. I mean, we just talked about the fact that we had a comp plan from 2004 that we're reopening early. So that already tells you that that wasn't necessarily a bad comp plan, but it's necessitating some change earlier than we anticipated. And we want this to be even better. So what I'm really hoping is that we can look at model cities and communities, not only that are similar to ours and that may have similar challenges or have had similar challenges that were fixed, but also what has been tried and true, what has worked over and over. And that's everything from an infrastructure standpoint to that balance of your commercial, residential, diversity of housing, all of those things. What has really worked and preserved what we still love about our community in communities like ours, so that we're not looking at what's trendy, but maybe just what has been your traditional, like your little black dress. It always works. You always come back to those, really that foundation. So I'm hoping that we're looking at, what has just been consistently reliant and taking away from the challenge of not having a crystal ball by relying on those principles.
Yes, absolutely. And we certainly are going to be looking at best practices and state of the art for resolving issues that we identified through this process. And I think that's one of the benefits of our team, because we have had exposure to many different kinds of communities and have done this many, many times over. But change is inevitable. And so I will just say that the best comprehensive plans are the ones that are prepared as a framework to accept change, and not necessarily as a rigid sort of, document that it has to be a living document. It has to evolve. So, as you said, the 2035 comprehensive plan was not a bad plan, and I'm sure that once we start getting into it, and we're going to get into that pretty quickly with your staff, we're going to realize that a lot of it has actually been done. But many people did not realize that the things that were being done actually were sort of set the foundation of in the comprehensive plan. And so I think one of the things that I would like to see myself coming out is for people to be able to, staff, your department heads, all of you, go out and do things and then realize how they relate back to the work that you did here as a measure for success. And with that, please, your turn. Sorry.
Councilwoman, do you kind of feel like you're herding cats sometimes? I think. Well, we don't have a crystal ball, but we do know we're going to grow, and that's inevitable. And I think one of the hardest things we're going to find is getting the public to accept that growth. And we get a lot of pushback sometimes here because everyone wants to keep everything exactly the same, and I appreciate and understand that, but that's not going to happen. And for this city to survive, we definitely need to get more business to come here, more industrial type business, high-paying jobs, definitely. And we're not going to do that unless we get the rooftops and get the workforce housing. So we are going to experience a lot of change during this process. And yeah, we want to keep it as nice as we can, but it's just not going to stay the same. And that's one of the hardest things, especially in a community with the demographics we have, the older population, myself included, that don't want things to change. Things will change.
Accepting change is hard, for sure. Yes. Yes, sir. You have the closing comment here,
right.
sir.
I think everyone's pretty much covered everything. My biggest challenge I see is getting the community involved and collecting their feedback, and then probably keeping the community engaged throughout the whole process, and ideally presenting information in a way that they're able to see the impact they've had and understand the outcome.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you very much. And with that, I'm not going to make you vote. I think we heard the themes, and I think you all identify them as well. And so, Mr. Mayor?
Stay here. I just want to offer a bravo for a first step, which has certainly exceeded my expectations on all that we hope to accomplish. So I can't thank you both enough for all that we've accomplished just in this one group today. So I think we're off to a really good start. So I will thank you again. Appreciate working with it. Absolutely. So this is a workshop. So I just want to offer City Councilor, any closing comment? City Manager. Okay. With that, then I would accept a motion to adjourn. Is there a second? All in favor? So consider this meeting adjourned, and thank you again.
Thank you.